polls. A majority of Wisconsinites now disapprove of Scott Walker. Exactly half of them actually support his recall. What a sea change. What a change in a short time. And what amazed me too was just a few weeks after the protests began, the Wall Street Journal and NBC conducted a poll showing that 62% of Americans oppose efforts to strip government workers of their right to collectively bargain. Now I want to tell you something. I bet 62% of Americans who said that don't even have a clue what collective bargaining is. But they knew that you were on the right side. Sadly, less than 7% of the private sector right now is organized into unions. So unfortunately, most American workers haven't even experienced that. And I actually believe that had the poll been taken a few weeks before you ignited what you did, it would have come out differently. But what you did was manage to put a face on public employees. Every single person who came before the media, whether it was Ed Schultz or all the others that covered you, every last one was not only articulate, but was familiar, recognizable to every American. That teacher looks just like my cousin Jenny or my Aunt Jane. I know she's not earning too much money. Or, hey, that guy reminds me of my brother-in-law. He has a job too, doing maintenance at the state capitol building in my state. He can't afford a cut in salary. Or, why are you picking on those people? All they want is their rights. You were the teachers and you taught this country a lesson. With all of those middle-class Americans and people who aspire to the middle class, who know that something is really messed up in our country, and they could see that it wasn't those regular people they were seeing on TV that caused the problem. Now, of course, there is plenty of reason to worry. Will I lose my job, my house, my savings, my health insurance? Will my kid be able to go to college, get a decent job? What happened to the American dream? And I want to show you my favorite chart. I'm going to bring it closer. Okay. You don't need to worry about reading the numbers. And I carry this with me wherever I go because it explains a lot. What this chart shows is the growth in income by income categories from 1979 to 2005. I hope you can just see enough of the red, really, to get the point. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's good. Okay, there you go. Okay. Oh, then it's on the screen. Good point. Okay. Okay. So, this answers the question, where has all the money gone and what has where has middle class life gone? And it tells the story. The top 0.1% of Americans, that's the red zone, has seen their income grow from 1979 to 2005 by nearly $6 million. That's just the growth. Their average income is $27 million per year. The bottom 20% of Americans, that's the tiny little thing, their income has increased a grand total over all those years of $200. Right now in this country, the bottom, the bottom 90% of Americans control less wealth than the top 1%. Than the top 1%. I'm not kidding. The average income for the bottom 90% is just under $33,000 a year. The richest 400 Americans make nearly as much as the bottom 150 million Americans combined. 450 150 million. The average Fortune 500 CEO makes more money before lunch on the first working day of the year than his minimum wage worker earns all year. Now, people feel in their gut what this chart proves. Can we put it somewhere? Okay. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Michael. No wonder you elected him chair of the party. Now, I know that most people are saying that the deficit is the worst crisis that this country faces. And I agree that we need to address it. And as Gwen said, I was on the President's Commission on Fiscal Responsibility, the Simpson-Bowles Commission, along with Paul Ryan. But I think that an even bigger crisis, one that threatens our democracy as well as our economy, is the disparity of income in our country. We are seeing a hollowing out of the middle class and the greatest transfer of wealth to the richest people in America from the pockets of everyone else. And one more thing about this chart. If you were to overlay the growth in productivity on this chart, it would go straight up. We have the most productive workers in the world, yet almost none of the benefits went to those workers. And if you were to then add the level of union participation, it would head straight down. And the conclusion is, it is unions that made the middle class, and it is the loss of unions that has made for the middle class disappearance, period, end of story. Now, none of this is an accident or a lucky coincidence for rich people, and certainly not an act of nature, of course not. It's the plan. Make it harder for workers to organize, create tax breaks for the rich, reduce regulations, and arrange it so companies like General Electric can earn $14 billion in profits in 2010, pay $0 in taxes, and claim a tax benefit of $3.2 billion. You pay more taxes than General Electric and 11 other of the top companies. It's all perfectly legal, though unfair and immoral. So it's time that we took the advice of 81% of Americans who say the best way to reduce the deficit is to tax millionaires and billionaires. Yeah. So I introduced the Fairness and Taxation Act that creates new tax brackets, starting at $1 million in annual income at 45%, ratcheting up to $1 billion at 49%, and yes, there really are Americans who made, in 1 year, over $1 billion. So it's only fair to ask them to pay more, since the actual tax rate for the richest 400 people was 18% after their accountants got done with it. And by the way, the rates in my proposal are lower than the top tax rates historically, including under Ronald Reagan. You can see in this chart, America is not broke. So despite all our challenges, I am optimistic in large part because of what you started. You've shown that we're not helpless in the face of great changes. There are things we can do, and one is we can all get on your bandwagon. I know I spent a beautiful Saturday with a few carloads of my constituents helping Wisconsin residents collect recall signatures for Alberta Darling. And now we can help you. My district isn't far from the border. We can help you win those elections. There will be a lot of inspiring opportunities to come to your great state in the next few months and experience your hospitality. Number two, we are actually quite grateful to your homeboy, Paul Ryan. He laid out for all to see what the Republicans are really about. They want to end Medicare in order to continue giving tax breaks to oil companies and corporations that send our jobs overseas, and make no mistake, the Ryan plan ends Medicare. They can call it something else, but not Medicare. They can call it sort of care, or maybe care, but it's not Medicare, which is the government guaranteed health insurance plan that doesn't put seniors at the mercy of private insurance companies and raise their out-of-pocket costs by $6,000. The Ryan budget is a gift that keeps on giving. 9 million students could be affected by cuts to college grants. The SNAP program, used to be called food stamps, will be cut. Investments in infrastructure and clean energy, gone. And that means investments in jobs, jobs of today and jobs for the future. And as you might imagine, cutting Medicare is not popular. Ryan thinks that the fact that the overwhelming number of Americans oppose it, he thinks that it's just a matter of bad messaging. He's wrong. The Republicans and the Tea Party were able to demonize our landmark historic health care law that we passed because many of its benefits have yet to be realized. But that's really different than snatching away what Americans already have, what they already know and love. The Medicare issue is so popular that it played a major role in the unlikely victory of Democrat Kathy Hochul in the New York 26th. That district is the 9th most Republican district in the country, and I believe it is powerful enough to win the additional 24 seats we need to take back the House, and I believe it will be a major factor in why them defeat of Paul Ryan. Out of seeing on the TV clip where Paul Ryan had to escape out the back door from white-haired seniors carrying paper signs. Ferocious, dangerous, the young gun running from seniors. And we greeted him when he came to Chicago a couple of weeks ago with sign carrying seniors too. And all over the country, people are going to their congressmen's town hall meetings and fundraisers. All but 4 Republicans voted, they're on record to kill Medicare, and now we're going to make them own that vote. They can learn that they can't hide. And finally, this is the end, we have to create jobs. Good jobs that can sustain a middle-class life. You know, the new jobs that are being created, all of them, most of them, actually lower income of most Americans. So the Democrats have launched an initiative called Make It in America. We need to actually make things here in our country once again. And we can't survive by inventing new technologies and then importing the stuff from China or Mexico or Vietnam. So we have a package of bills that creates an infrastructure bank, deals with currency manipulation that create unfair trade advantage, invests in in innovative technology and biotechnology, small businesses, and a workforce investment act. But I actually think it's time to put aggressive and proven programs on the table. If we want to create jobs, then we should create jobs. We need something like the WPA program. Millions of men and women go to work. And of course, these aren't make-work jobs. Our infrastructure is crumbling, bridges are falling down, water and sewer systems are deteriorating. We desperately need more mass transportation. We could train and hire more healthcare workers to be ready for the new health exchanges. There are 15 million unemployed Americans who would much rather be paying taxes than collecting unemployment checks. And if the private sector can't or won't do it, then it's time for government to step in. The president went to Toledo yesterday and spoke to the Chrysler workers who are making Wranglers today because he had the courage to step in and literally save the auto industry. He said, let me end with a quote from what the president said yesterday. He said, quote, "I want everybody to understand our task hasn't just been to recover from the recession. Our task has been to rebuild the future on a stronger foundation than we had before, to make sure that you can see your incomes and your savings rise again. And you can retire with security and respect again. And you can open doors of opportunity for your kids again. And we can live out the American dream again. That's what we're fighting for. And thank you, Wisconsin Democrats, for leading that fight. I'm so proud to be with you. Thank you.